Welcome on in, guys. Tobin here with you, and thanks for checking out the channel. Off day from the radio show today. We were off because an abundance of caution from the storm, and thinking of everybody who had a lot of damage to their homes and whatnot. Thankfully, the Tobin household got out okay, and it definitely was scary with all the tornadoes that were around because that was very, very close to my neighborhood. But thinking of everybody. And especially over in Tampa and some of the damage that was over there was real scary as well. So that was tough. The radio show will be back on Friday and good to go, 10 a.m. streaming on the WQM YouTube channel. I haven't said that in a while. Make sure you subscribe to the WQM YouTube channel as well, in addition to this one, so you can watch Tobin and Leroy every single day, weekdays from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And I would appreciate that. Miami Heat, they were supposed to have a preseason game tonight. That got postponed until next Wednesday. So instead, the Miami Heat are off today. They're off up until Sunday when they take on the New Orleans Pelicans. And Pelicans, obviously, this is a weird team. I'm not going to get into some whole game preview. That would seem ridiculous for preseason. But obviously, tons of talent on that team. Zion Williamson, CJ McCollum. They traded for DeJounte Murray, excuse me, dumbass. Talk about preseason for everybody. Herb Jones, the Brandon Ingram saga, Trey Murphy. They got all this stuff that's hanging over their team, right? The thing that's interesting about this team, they don't have a center, really. They started Daniel Tice this last game. Of course, we all remember the infamous scout who said leading into the 1920 Eastern Conference Finals that him and Bam would be a wash. So, I always have this little bit of animosity towards Daniel Tice, even though I probably shouldn't. It's not his fault that a scout was terrible at his job. But this one's interesting to me because they don't have that traditional size. What will be the performance of Kel'el Ware? And I'm curious to see in these matchups coming up because Miami's preseason, like I said, I'm not going to do like a whole schematic breakdown of all these games, but the matchups that are coming up for the Miami Heat, you got Wembanyama theoretically coming to town on Tuesday. I imagine he's still going to play. He's only a child, so I would imagine that he's going to be in some preseason action. One of these games, now that there's a Heat back-to-back coming up, one of these games is going to be, I'm guessing, is going to be like an all-rookie game. I don't think, I can't imagine Erik Spoelstra is going to rock with his starters on a back-to-back now just because they got to make good on a game. So if I had to guess, even though they're 3 home games, I mean, it's possible maybe he does that, and then is the Memphis game, rats off a ship, and then he gives everybody off. Basically, if you go Wednesday and then give everybody off a week, they could theoretically do that. But my guess is it'll probably look very similar to everything that they did on Tuesday. Will look that way on Sunday. Of course, we got to keep an eye out about Tyler Hero and Jaime Jaquez. I'm going to guess the Heat practice tomorrow. I haven't gotten that noti from the media department, but I'm going to guess that the Heat get in some practice tomorrow, and so that will inevitably give some people a health update on where things stand with those guys and see if they're out there and back in action. But, hopefully with those guys missing the scrimmage and missing this game, but getting the extra time off, maybe we'll get a different chance, and then we'll get a truer sense of what maybe Pelle Larsson's role could be, because Spell mentioned this with Pelle, right? He said Pelle Larsson first of all, he used the term steady. Has just been steady, and that he could just fill in that role, and basically said that he filled in the Jaime Jaquez role after the last preseason game, and he looked like it. Got a bunch of action with that second unit, and it was incredible. He looked like he can step right in. He looks like a guy who's not going to be scared to step in and compete with the Miami Heat. He was saying that, he still feels like he missed on some things defensively, Pelle, but I think that's what you like. You like that accountability and where he can where he can improve on these types of things. So I'm looking definitely to see, all right, we have an idea the starting unit's probably going to have Tyler in it, duh. And then, so we're going to go Terry, Tyler, Nico, Bam, Jimmy. And then you kick Alec Burks down to the second unit because he played really well. I can't imagine Spo's going to ice him out. And you got him, Duncan Robinson, Jaime, Kevin Love, Haywood Highsmith. And then do we have the young guys unit, or is he going to throw in a different mix there? Is he going to play Kel'el a little bit more? I really would like to see on Tuesday when the San Antonio Spurs come down, there is part of me that would like to see, hey, can we see a Kel'el Ware going out of Victor Wembanyama? Now, knowing Victor plays a lot on the perimeter, it's not going to be an apples for apples, but I just kind of want to see the size discrepancy and see what that looks like. Young big versus young big, maybe him going at the rim and Kel'el sending it away. I'm very curious to see what that looks like. I'm very curious to see what that matchup looks like. It's interesting. I was kind of perusing the GM survey, and there's a lot of, I think you guys saw the headlines on Spo and whatnot, but I was looking at the section on rookies, and I didn't think that Kel'el was going to get any action for Rookie of the Year, but I was curious to see when they said, which rookie is the biggest steal of the draft? I thought that he would have gotten some votes. I would have thought that he would have gotten some votes. And he did not make the top 7, and he did not even make others receiving votes. And I was a little surprised by that. You know, they go Bub Carrington, Devin Carter, who I know a lot of Heat fans wanted. Johnny Furphy. Can't say that I know a lot about him. I apologize. Dalton Connect. A lot of people were surprised the Heat didn't take Dalton Connect. I was not, just because they kind of went that route last year. Terrence Shannon Jr., Nikola Topic was very much in a lot of Heat fans' minds. Like a lot of the popular targets, it did. You know, we did a lot more draft work this year on this program and on this channel, and then I did the draft show that night, and a lot of the guys that everybody was interested in with the Heat, they did get taken, with whether it be Edey or Topic or Devin Carter. Those were a lot of the popular names that were around. Ron Holland went a lot higher than I thought that he was going to go. But Kel'el Ware is an interesting one, because the Heat definitely, the only red flag on him seemingly is the motor. And the Heat and Spo and Adam Simon and Woodson, they've all said that they did so much work on him. And I loved what he said afterwards to Jason Jackson, where Kel'el was asked about the 3 blocks in 1 possession, and he was basically like, he said, "Don't let the ball hit the rim." And I was like, that's good. I like that a lot. From the warehouse. I mean, he was really, really fun to watch. And so there is part of me that looks at this, and I look at all these guys who are like, who is going to be the biggest steal of the draft? Like Zach Edey got some ask for steal, but I think there's also some Zach Edey buzz for Rookie of the Year. I would really like to see in that last preseason game that the Heat have Memphis coming on up. That wraps things up on the 18th. I'd really like to see Kel'el Ware and Zach Edey. I want to see what this guy looks like. Ricochet had though he's not like a pure center, he had a really good performance his first one, and a lot of people kind of raised an eyebrow at that number 1 pick by the Atlanta Hawks. But, I'm not suggesting like I think Kel'el Ware versus Clint Capella. I mean, you want to talk about a test if he were to get actual minutes against the starters. Whew, Clint Capella is a dog and a pain in the ass. That would be kind of an interesting welcome to the NBA matchup for him. I really would like to see if he gets a little bit of a bump up the next time around. If we could see him where Thomas Bryant played, or mix him on it, just to see what it looks like. Just to kind of, all right, we got to see what Pella looks like with some of the vets. Can we see what Kel'el looks like with some of the vets? Will that be something? But Spo was very positive about Kel'el and where things are at. It's just going to be interesting with this preseason and the way the schedule's going. Basically 3 games in 4 nights now. Think that's going to translate to a bunch of young guys getting out there and getting some action. So curious to see where that lies with Miami in all of this. But the big things that I'm curious about over the next few days are Tyler Hero's health. Jaime Jaquez' health, what that does to Pella in the rotation, and with some of these matchups coming up, will Spo give Ware more of a test, right? I think that if you talked about what he did this last game, I think that he passed the test with flying colors. You have those blocks, you make that kind of an impact. He goes to him to try and tie the game late, so he lets him show the range a little bit. He wants him to attack the basket with force. That was another thing that Spo pointed out. That is going to be an interesting thing. They need him, to be a force going after him because, man, I will say the one thing that was noticeable about Kel'el in the summer league is, and Coach Woodson mentioned this when we interviewed him this summer, is that, man, he gets fouled a lot. And he needs to be relied upon at that free throw line. And so that is going to be a big test too. The Heat do a great job improving on that stuff. I mean, go see what Bam, how much he's improved as a free throw shooter over his career. But that's another thing that the Heat have to know is hey, if this kid does get fouled a lot, can we trust him at the free throw line? Can we trust him to make that stuff? Or is that something that he needs to ascend on a little bit more before we give him regular minutes? Or we're going to give him those 15-minute balls to the wall. Can he go block everything? So fascinating stuff. But obviously, coming out of that game, seeing more of Kel'el is a big factor for everybody watching this team. They want to see what can he do, but what can he really do with more of the regulars? It's nice to be the anchor of the Summer League champs. That's a great squad. And, man, Sioux Falls is going to ball out this year, it feels like. But what could he do if he has, Terry Rozier next to him? What could he do if he has Tyler and Duncan and Jaime next to him? How does that all cut into this whole thing? So those are, I think, the big things you're looking for over the next few days of preseason once it gets going again.